Hello everyone, it is I, the Witch of Paint. This week we are going to paint another Trash Fairy number 4, I believe. I know it has been a while since my last Trash Fairy video, but after coming across a lot more litter and rubbish, I thought it was about time I painted another one. This is basically going to be the last video before Inktober. Well, technically Inktober is starting today on this day, but as I'm recording this it's not. So this is the last video I'm going to be doing until Inktober, and after Inktober I'm going to get back to weekly videos on Sundays, just so you know. Anyway, the concept for this was a sort of mirrored painting. On one side we would have a happy fairy frolicking across some water with plants and flowers around her. The paintings inside her wings showing the beauty of nature and what it is we should be protecting. On the bottom we will have a trash fairy. Dark, grey and wilted, less colourful than the fairy opposite her, and I thought it would be fitting to have her crying. It should be a well-known fact by now that littering in general is horrible, ignorant and destructive, and people should really stop turning the brains off sometimes. For the purposes of this video, I will be focusing on Ireland, as it is where I currently live, and every country most likely has its own rules about littering. And what I was wondering is, what is being done about this issue of littering in Ireland? Because whatever it is, it doesn't seem to be working particularly well, if I put it that way. According to the citizensinformation.ie website, it is the responsibility of local authorities to keep streets clean of litter, which I suppose that makes sense. I mean, if you're local, you can look at the streets and, keep everything clean if you can. If that is the case, however, why on earth don't they put up more bins? Or rather, the question should be, why did they remove the public bins in the first place? Because they did have bins here prior to around 2012, I believe, if one of the articles is correct. But my question has been for years, why on earth is the mindset of city councils and local authorities in Ireland that taking away bins is going to solve littering? If they were to walk around the streets of Ireland, around the glens, the parks, etc., they would see that it is not working. I have found the statistics from the National Litter Pollution Monitoring Scheme and will refer to that for this next section. The website is linked below in the description for anyone who is interested. Although the numbers are slightly outdated, I will use them since I do not think that there will be too much of a change in how littered areas are. The most recent dataset I have found is from 2021, so only 2 years ago. So I'm feeling okay with using it. As mentioned in the last Trash Fairy video, cigarette litter is the highest amount of littering happening in Ireland, with around 48.4%. It is way ahead of packaging litter, which makes up only 20.4% of littering. Now, bear in mind how small cigarettes are. How many of those would have to be spread out across Ireland in order for them to make up 48% of all littering? And that is just in 2021. I have found an article from 2022 that claims that it is in fact 54% of all littering, but I haven't quite found the statistics that back that up. But either way, it seems to be rising and something needs to be done about it. A solution for the article, which is linked below, proposed was to make companies write something along the lines of "please don't litter" on the packaging on cigarettes, because it worked with gum. But how useful would that even be? I'm not entirely sure. I haven't looked into how effective a "please don't litter" message is. I mean, down in the Glen, where I walk a lot, they have a "please don't litter" sign, and people still litter, so it can't be that effective to just politely ask people not to throw the rubbish where it's not supposed to be. Some of the people the article has quoted have simply said that there aren't enough bins to put them, which I suppose it's true. Pubs and food places are required to have a bin for rubbish to go, at least according to citizensinformation.ie, but those bins also have a separate ashtray for the cigarettes to go, but either smokers are just too lazy to put their cigarettes in there, or there really aren't enough bins around. Although there are a lot of pubs and food places, particularly in towns. Although even there, I think the bins are more likely to be inside. I haven't really paid attention to bins outside of pubs. I should do that. See if I can see that. Anyways, if you asked me, simply getting rid of all cigarettes would solve the problem, but I know that's not a viable solution, at least not to this society. To be honest, the council could try to put up more bins in the hotspots of these places. The article mentioned bus stops as a place where the cigarette butts particularly collected. Sure, not everyone would use the bins with ashtrays, but not all smokers are lazy and ignorant, I imagine. At least I hope so. I do remember most bus stops in Germany to have bins there, although I do not remember clearly how littered the area there was, and that was so long ago that my memory might not be the best source for this, so But I would imagine that bins at bus stops would help reduce not only littering of cigarette butts, but also some of the packaging litter as well. But alas, the government doesn't wish to pay civil servants to clean up those bins. It's just too costly, they say. And of course, household rubbish collecting in Ireland has been privatised. I have found an old article from 2012 that talked about Dublin removing public bins because those who can't afford to pay their rubbish to be collected tended to dump their things in public bins. So they decided to take this and not put rubbish collection back into government hands, using taxpayer money to pay for rubbish collection. Instead, they took away bins so they can force those who can't afford to have their rubbish collected to pay for something that they can't pay for. And as a result, I believe littering is only getting worse around Ireland if keeping the business of these private rubbish collecting companies is really the priority across all of Ireland. Instead of taking care of the root of the problem, which is the privatisation of rubbish collecting and their high prices, they choose to instead blame those who can't pay and force them to pay instead. So basically, they punished the public for using the bins that they provided. How messed up is this? Honestly, this is a problem, and it should not be solved by taking away public bins, especially considering that Ireland does get quite a bit of tourism around certain areas. So, what are they supposed to do? They don't really pay private rubbish collectors because they don't live here. They need bins. Okay, let's calm down a little, take a deep breath, but perhaps this makes everything a little clearer. It's not just an individual at fault here. Yes, of course, people who throw trash into glens, woods, rivers, lakes are horribly ignorant, but if the country itself doesn't provide you with enough bins to throw your rubbish into, say if you're a tourist perhaps, or just on a go, somewhere on a walk, well then, you have essentially doomed the community to pay to clean up and dispose of trash they didn't even produce in the first place. And that is kind of frustrating for me. Still, we don't have to be reckless just because the country that we live in doesn't provide us with enough public bins. If you really have to take a canned drink or a bag of crisps or some other snack with you on a trip or on a walk or wherever you want to go, take a lunchbox, perhaps. It doesn't have to be big. Just empty out the snacks out in there and throw your rubbish away before you even exit your home. It's not particularly hard, I'd say. Yes, I know the rubbish collecting here in Ireland isn't, particularly cheap, but that doesn't mean our environment should suffer for it. Besides, littering is clearly not an Irish problem, so even if you're not in Ireland, stop littering. It is an issue worldwide. In some areas, more than others, but it has become an issue everywhere, including places where humans don't live. Perhaps I'll touch on that some other time. Now, while collecting this rubbish may be part of the solution to a cleaner environment, we also have to stop producing this huge harmful amount of trash in the first place. Seriously, how many things we use should really be made out of, say, plastic, and how many of those things do we actually need? It's not even necessary a lot of the time when you think about it. Although as the statistics have shown, if smokers were just a little bit more mindful about throwing away their cigarette butts, which should be in an ashtray in a bin, around 50% of the litter that is around right now could be taken care of. Just saying. But let's not push this all onto the smokers here. The other 50% of litter would still have to be accounted for. So, essentially, okay, I know this is a lot to ask from some people, and I know nobody is going to really listen, especially if they already litter, but maybe some people will listen and just stop littering in places where there are no bins just because they got too tired of carrying their bag of crisps or sweets or that one can of soda or something. I suppose it could be too much to ask people to stop buying a can of soda every time they need a drink and instead fill up a water bottle at home with whatever drink it is they want to have. Like, I'm not saying you should stop having soda, just the can itself. Don't throw it out. And if you have a habit of doing that, start taking a reusable water bottle with you. It's not that hard. It may seem bizarre to me, but everyone is different. Still, doesn't mean that you should leave your soda cans or beer cans or whatever drink in a can you got lying around in the glens, woods, streets or whatever, wherever you live. You bought it fully well knowing it would produce rubbish. Take responsibility and throw it in a bin, whether that be public or not. Anyways, we're nearing the end of the video, so let's finish this up on a little chat about my painting before I move on to the final result. I had this idea for a trash fairy in my head for quite some time, and I think this was kind of fun to at least paint. And then in the trash fairy section everything got rather dark and kind of muddy and unclear, but that was basically what I was going for. Trash pollutes, so why not show that in this trash fairy painting? While the happy fairy in the pink dress frolics on one side of a pond with green grass and flowers beside her, the fairy on the other side, the reflection, is sad with nothing but black smoke around her. Her wings are near colourless and she herself is all grey and wilted. In this painting, perhaps it may seem like they are in two separate worlds, but are they? In the world we live in, these things appear side by side, coexist, so to speak. You can have a beautiful flower or a butterfly flapping around, and a few steps further find a ton of trash and rubbish that doesn't really belong in this beautiful wild world. It's really bizarre and jarring to me whenever I am trying to enjoy a walk somewhere, doesn't matter where, and I'm seeing a pretty flower and then look right beside it or farther into the field and notice a plastic water bottle perhaps, or a drink can, or a wrapper of some sweets, perhaps a tissue. Although tissues, I guess, aren't that huge of a problem, but still a problem. When I'm looking in a river and there is some huge chunk of plastic, although that could have just, been blown over by a storm, because there are a lot of storms, especially around the west coast where I live, so it just doesn't belong there. The trash is not supposed to go right there, and I feel the need to show that and to point it out because obviously a lot of people are not getting it. And this is my way of trying to draw attention to these issues, because so long as people just nod along their heads with the councils and city council's decisions to take away bins, say, nothing will change. So I'm calling that out, those choices, and hoping that maybe eventually public bins will become a thing again in Ireland. Hopefully with proper sized openings as well, because before they took away the bins, they kind of decreased the size of the opening for bins in order to discourage people from throwing away their rubbish in it, which kind of defeats the point. What's the point of a bin if you're not supposed to use it? It's really bizarre to me. Maybe one of these days these things will get solved. I don't know. I really hope so. But probably not for a while. Which is sad because I would love for Ireland to become a cleaner country and to essentially not have to deal with this much litter from people everywhere. I hope it gets solved one day, hopefully in a way that makes sense, and perhaps even reduce the amount of people who litter. Who knows? With these thoughts, I'd like to move on with you to the final result of this painting. While I might have enjoyed making this painting, at least in part, it isn't exactly meant to be enjoyed per se. Unlike other paintings that I do for fun or to improve my skill, this painting, along with my other 3 trash fairies, is supposed to remind everyone that the world we live in is vulnerable and being destroyed and ruined by this trash. I think with this newest trash fairy, I have brought that point out a little bit more clearly by putting it immediately opposite a blissfully unaware fairy that is just enjoying the flowers and animals around her. I hope that if you are someone who has a habit of throwing things out where they do not belong, that this at least makes you reconsider. In either case, if you found this video helpful or enjoyable to watch at least, leave a thumbs up for me, comment down below about the littering situations in your area, perhaps, and what you think should be done about it. Subscribe to my channel for more art videos and follow me on my social media links down below. For the time being, Inktober's about to start, so perhaps hop into my Twitch at 3 o'clock every day for October. I'll be there and doing some ink drawings. I'm not going to be doing any more videos for October, as I've stated at the start. I will take a break from videos, but will upload the streams I do on Twitch onto YouTube, so for the time being, I'm the Witch of Paint, and I shall see you all next time. Bye! Well, look here who has made it to the end of the video. Well done, first of all. It probably wasn't that easy to get through this. I was ranting a lot, I know. But as per usual, here are 2 outtakes this time. I was working really professionally this time, apparently. Anyway, have fun. Why on earth is the mindset of local authorities here in Ireland that taking away bins... Laptop, shut up! In this painting, perhaps it may seem like... bless me. Winter is coming, I can feel it.